STI is an acronym for sexually transmitted infection. As the name connotes, sexually transmitted infections, these are infections that can be contracted via sexual intercourse. Yes, there might be other routes by extension. The symptoms of sexually transmitted infection can be dependent on the type of infection you have. So, but the common presentation, especially among ladies, can be maybe vaginal discharge, itching, times redness around the vulva. The vulva is the female private part. Itching, redness around the vulva. Then you can occasionally have some sores, blisters. So that can be painless is in the type and painful in the type. So these symptoms are largely dependent on the type of infection. There are particular types that are well known with itching, constant itching, almost resistant to all forms of treatment. So these are some of the common common symptoms they can have when you have sexually transmitted infection. However, you should note also that at times you may not have any symptoms. They can be asymptomatic, which is the reason why we always tell people to regularly screen themselves for sexually transmitted infection, especially if you are sexually active. So let me just break it down in a way that people can easily relate with. Like infection, like every other infection, you can have the bacterial infection. It's a form of STI. You can have the viral type. You can have also the parasites and the fungi. So the bacteria, they are the one that most people really, hear about, like the chlamydia trachomatis. So you have chlamydia infection. That's a type of. Then you can have gonorrhea. Gonorrhea. When you are infected with Neisseria gonorrhea, you can have gonorrhea. And these are the two most, particularly when it comes to ladies and infertilities, these are the two most commonly, what do you call it now? Implicated. So there is another viral type that is bacterial syphilis. Syphilis is also a bacterial form of STI. Then you can have the H. I call them the viral STI. I call them the H infection. H, HIV, human immunodeficiency virus infection. You can have the hepatitis B virus infection. You can have the human papilloma virus. This is highly implicated when it comes to cervical cancer and others. So you can have there is herpes simplex virus. Those are the viral type of sexually transmitted infection. Then you have the fungi. Fungi is, a lot of people candida. Well, there is a question of, is it really sexually transmitted? Yes, it can be, but you can have it also without sexual contact. So that's one thing about the fungi, Candida albicans. Then I think I've touched on the various, the parasitic infection. That's the Trichomonas vaginalis. That one, when a lady have that, or even a young man, you can have a lot of itching as a parasite. Then the pubic lice around the pubic region. That one is also associated with a lot of itching, redness, and some sores from excessive scratching. So it's also a form of sexually transmitted infection. The most important thing about all of this is regular screening of these infections. I talk about detection in various I don't want us to always start detecting any condition by waiting for the symptoms. Like I said earlier on, it can be asymptomatic in some people. And while it's asymptomatic, it does not prevent it from causing these complications or bringing some other bigger consequences. So, detecting it once you are sexually active, it is it will be expedient for each and everyone to occasionally, as a form of screening, check your status on a regular basis. Checking your status on a regular basis. So you pick it on time and don't wait for symptoms. At the same time, if you have any of these symptoms, especially some of them where you're treating and you're not getting better, it's always good to consider sexually transmitted infection if you are sexually active. Okay, so when you have STI, it will be very weird. You have some symptoms and yet you are not treating yourself. You understand? Because I don't know how it feels now when you have some discharge and you're itching, and as a human being, you'll be uncomfortable. So the most important thing is to know what to do. That's why we're discussing this. But these untreated cases, it's more with those who are largely asymptomatic or they trivialize their symptoms. So it's, creeps in and continue to thrive and leads to those consequences. So the most dreadful consequence is when you have what we call infertility, struggling to conceive, because especially this is implicated. This is a case that this is a case commonly caused by the Neisseria, gonorrhea, chlamydia, trachomatis, where we talk about ascending infection. So infertility, we can also have chronic pelvic pain. Like if you think, okay, I've had one or two kids and I'm okay. So I can't handle it anyhow I wish. I think you should have a second thought, because there is an entity called chronic pelvic pain. If you have any of these not properly treated, it can progress and it leads to chronic pelvic pain. How does it sound to live with pain for the rest of your life, having pain constantly and having to use medication on a daily basis or series of surgical intervention, yet you still continue to have this pain? There is a saying in Yoruba, tí ìyà ńlá bá gbéyàn ṣánlẹ̀, kékeré máa ń gorí ẹ̀. There can be also some secondary infection that can start to affect other parts of your body. These are some of the consequences that are not very good for a human being. Okay, absolutely. So when a woman has syphilis and you are pregnant, it affects the baby more. That's when we talk about, in fact, you can have intrauterine growth restriction. The baby can have some neurological problem. So this is why it is always very good when you are active in your younger age or in your early days. You should try and screen and prevent all of these things before you. So when you have the knowledge, if you are pregnant still, there are things you must actually do so that you prevent this kind of untoward effect. It can disturb the baby a lot. Neurological problem, you can have some intrauterine growth restriction, some developmental issues too. So it definitely affects them. That's one among few others, because if you have herpes simplex, if you have HIV, there is a need for specialists to handle your case in a special way to avoid it affecting your baby, or to avoid it from getting worse in such a woman too. So, HIV, hepatitis B virus, herpes simplex, or human papilloma virus. So, like for instance, the two of them can cause what we call genital warts. a particular type of genital wax, and if it becomes very significant when you are pregnant, it can at times define the route of delivery. That sometimes we don't want baby to come out through, because it can also erode some form of tear and injury that might be difficult to repair because the anatomy has been changed, has been distorted. So these are some of the extension and implication, and that can also affect, the conjunctiva of the baby when the baby is born, especially gonorrhea. When you have gonorrhea and it's untreated, and you're pregnant and you're having the baby via the vagina. So there are quite a number of effect it can have on mother and also on the baby. Yes, absolutely. It is very wrong for us to stigmatize when you have either vaginal discharge or sexually transmitted infection, because what is important is take care of yourself irrespective of discrimination, irrespective of the stigma. You need to take care of yourself. More often than not, what you find is the person who is stigmatizing someone had already had it before. Everybody just hide behind their finger. So as an individual, you need to pay attention to your own health, pay attention to yourself, and make sure you did the right thing to put your own self in the best frame of mind and health. So yes, there can be stigmatization, but that should not prevent you from seeking help when you have any, not even just sexually transmitted infection, any form of disease, any form of infection, any form of health condition, health challenge. Whatever you hide and keep in terms of is what kills. Whatever you come out to seek help for, you more often than not get the help you seek, and that is what will improve the quality of life such a person live afterwards. So we can also use the medium to address those who are stigmatized. Most of the time, it's either you have had it you did not know, or you have had it you didn't know how to handle it. So seeing someone who has it does not make you a better person than the person who has it. So let's stop the discrimination. Let's stop the stigmatization. I like addressing prevention in 3 ways. Whatever you want to prevent, you must have knowledge about the prevention. This effort around this discussion is to enlighten people, to create awareness. So you need to read around it. You need to be informed about it. You need to talk to your doctor about it. You need to be educated, schooled about various type of STI, what can actually predispose you to having this kind of infections. Like if you're the type that have multiple sexual partners, if you are the type that actually share sex toys, if you are the type that if you are the type that don't take good care of your health. Remember our 13 lifestyle hack that improve your health. Most of the time when we see all these things, we just look at it, what are going to do for me? When you do all of these things, there is a way it builds your immunity. And when your immunity is very solid, there are some minor diseases that are meant to creep in and your body just clears it off your system. I'm emphasizing on this particularly because of human papillomavirus. Almost every woman, or almost every man, or almost every human being that have had sex before must have had contact with human papillomavirus. But it is clear absolutely by the body in over 75% of cases. It's clear, especially the ones that are not very that are not high risk, that are not virulent. Now, eating good food, doing exercise, avoiding smoking, avoiding alcohol has a lot to do also with building your immunity and preventing the virulence or not necessarily violence, prevent how badly if affected you can be with some of these conditions. So that's talking about knowledge, awareness. Then the next thing is, what do you do to prevent what do you call it, sexually transmitted infection. Be faithful to your sexual partner. Avoid multiple sexual partners. Protect yourself. The use of condom, being protective. Then we can't talk about different types of sex. Some, there's a debate around how hygienic is oral sex. Is it supposed to be a way of having fun? Well, we're not here to debate that. The most important thing is you can contract sexually transmitted infection via the oral route when you're having oral sex. There is what we call dental dam. If you must do oral sex, you can attempt to use dental dam to prevent yourself from having all of these problems. So be faithful, communicating with your partner. You need to communicate. You need to discuss your history too. If you have had sexually transmitted infection, we talk about stigma. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Discuss it so that you can take good care of one another and prevent reoccurrence, reinfection, and all the likes. So these are the various things you can adopt to prevent yourself from having. So then the next stage is the screening. When you screen yourself for it, you are trying to prevent it too. When nothing is wrong with you, you just walk in and try to check, do I have it? It's a secondary form of prevention. So when you detect anything, the third one is it affords you the opportunity to promptly nip it at the bud, promptly treat it so that it doesn't get worse or it doesn't get bad. It's also a form of prevention. That's the high level of prevention, because even if you have it, there are some conditions when you have them early enough, you address it. You remove some very deadly diseases. For example, human papilloma virus. We talk about cervical cancer screening. When you screen, cervical cancer gives 7 years of warning. You would have been having some lesions, cervical lesion, and then if you are screening at least once in 3 years, it affords you to see the lesion at the early stage and you quickly treat it when you can completely remove it. But when you're the type that don't care about screening and you think you want to see symptoms before you, unfortunately, most of these conditions, they don't come with some symptoms. By the time you are having symptoms, it's already a sorry case. So these questions are not exhaustive, so you can still have some concerns, some questions to ask. Do well to drop your questions in the comment section.
Yes.
You can also share experience with us. We can enlighten you. Thank you for watching.